Hey, Life Groupers, welcome to the final week of the Flip Sermon Series. I'm personally a little sad to see this one go, but really excited for what God is doing and has been doing and is going to continue to do. If you remember, though, those handouts I'm getting flipped, you've got one more week. You're going to turn those in next week, September 22nd. Turn those in with your information so we can get you a t-shirt that says, I got flipped. Again, I'm just excited for what God's doing. Hopefully, you've really pushed into this, been intentional about it, and allowed God to move you from one glory to another. So on Sunday, we talked about the last one, which is really the most important piece of all this, and that is the very presence of God. And we talked about Moses, we talked about the unveiled face, and what does that look like, and that we are individuals that absorb the glory of God. And from that absorption, from that, then we glow. We're not a mirror. Mirror just reflects. It doesn't ever grab a hold of it, but we absorb. And the more we're in God's presence, the more we absorb His presence, the more we look like, sound like, taste like, act like, the more we become transformed into the very image of God. And that's mind-blowing to me to think about, that when somebody can see me, they begin to see God. Let me share with this with you, because I want you to talk about this today. And I had a guy come up to me a couple weeks ago, and it was a gentleman that Pastor Jen and I had went to their church as an interim basis, and they were going through a pastoral change, and there was a lot going on. It was a long-term pastor. They loved this pastor, but he was moving on. And there was a lot of questioning, a lot of wondering, and he's, over the years, he was sharing with me, it's been about 4 or 5 years, I think, about 5 years since we were there, and he's sharing with me a lot of medical issues and just stuff that's gone on with his life. And he said, every time I wonder if there's a God, I think of you. And I was like, what do you mean by that? And he said, anybody that would do what you've done, and gone from a job that you loved, with good money, good benefits, to go into a pastorate in a different area, move away from your home, move away from all that. He said, and to be who you are. He says, I see Jesus when I see you. And that totally humbled me. And then began me to think about other individuals that I know, that I see Jesus in, that I see God in, that they've absorbed. And I've thought about, like, if I could create a dream team, what that dream team would look like, right? You think about, like, when I say dream team, I think of the U.S. Olympic team and, Michael Jordan. And I began to think, I was like, well, if I were to build my dream team, what it would look like? Well, in the area of battle, and I really tried to stay away from our own church, but there's no one else I can think greater of in the area of battle than Frank. Now, don't tell him I told you this, right? But Frank is awesome to me. He's a guy that has grabbed hold of that idea that it's the battle that's coming is not against me, but the kingdom inside of me. And then it's not my battle, but it's God's battle. This is a guy that a couple of years ago, he was dying. He didn't know. He was worried. He wondered what was going on, and then just recently with the cancer scare, right? I mean, it wasn't a scare. He had cancer, and he told the doctor, well, that's what you say, but you didn't put it there. You can't take it away. He knew. He's like, God's got this. And then he goes back to the doctor, and the doctor looks at the test results and say, well, medicine can't do what has happened to you. You went from this level of cancer, and we're scared, to this level of cancer. We're hardly going to have to do anything, right? That's a guy that I want on my dream team in the era of battle. Then when I think of speak, I think of this guy named Jeff Dahl. He's from Washington. I love this man to death. But this is a guy that he could speak to anyone at any moment, and had such a heart for people, and understood the power of God, and that they all needed it. That he understood that he was a sinner saved by grace, and he wanted to ensure that everybody around him was saved. And man, he just loved people. And then I think of React, and okay, so I'm going to get a little brownie points here. I think of my wife when I think of react. There are so many times I look at her and I'm like, how can you react that way to this individual? They are abusing you. They are using your talents. You know, she stays up late, way too late at night, making cakes and other things for people that don't appreciate her, don't appreciate the amount of effort. She makes these cakes that are handmade. You know, she doesn't buy cake boxes, right, and do the whole thing. She does all this stuff, and man, if I have a dream team for React, she's there. Then I think of Truth. There's this other gentleman, his name's Oral, and man, I love this guy because when I talk to him, it is inevitable. I walk away with a sermon, I walk away with encouragement because he's always talking Bible. He's always talking truth, what God has done. And in fact, the other day we were talking, I just saw him a couple weeks ago, and we were talking, and I'm like, man, I've got a brand new sermon, and I can't wait to preach this sermon. The Silent Scream. Just hold on to that one, The Silent Scream. That's from that guy, because truth, that's what, I mean, when I get done talking to him, I'm so encouraged because he's been talking truth. And finally, presence. And you may all know this guy, Pastor Alton Bailey. Alton Bailey he's a man that you want him to pray for you because he's been like sitting next to God. I mean, this guy is always in the presence of God, and you just can sense it. So that's my dream team. What's your dream team? That's what I want you to talk about today. I also want you to think about the veiled faces and what does that look like? Really look, you're going to go back into Exodus, look at the Moses story, talk about the veiled faces. Because again, I think sometimes people think about Moses was trying to hide his face because it was fading, but that's not the case. I really want you to look at Exodus and then 2 Corinthians and put those together and understand what it means. Love you guys. Can't wait to hear what God's doing in your life. And we'll see you Sunday. Remember, no morning devotions. We're meeting at 11 o'clock, and then we're going to head over to Holy Praise Tabernacle and worship with them. Love you. Bye-bye.